Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Necromaniacs Horror Podcast. How's it going, Mike?
It is going well. We are back again for another fun-filled installment of the Necromaniacs Horror Podcast. It's a Mike and Mike night. We hope you all had a lovely week. How was your week, Mr. Hill?
Pretty good, actually. So far, this
Hmm.
past weekend was really good. I had a lot of fun. My Tina and I, we went to go see Swan Lake, the ballet, right?
Hmm.
Which is kind of a horror story.
True, very true, and decent movie from what is it, over a decade ago. That was a good movie.
Black Swan. We watched
Yeah,
that
Black Swan. Yeah.
as a follow up. We watched that movie,
Hmm. Yes.
and straight from that, we drove out to Coney Island,
Hmm.
had some dinner with some friends, and then went to Cemetery Cinema
Hmm.
production, Dementia 13, hosted by your friend,
Hmm.
Baron of Carnivore AD.
Yes. I've been a shitty friend in that I've been meaning to go to one of those damn showings at Coney Island in beautiful Brooklyn, New York, but I have not been yet. So perhaps the fact that you made it out before me will get the fire
Dude,
under my ass.
I
Yes.
was deep in your jurisdiction too, man.
Yes, you were. Yes, you
Yeah.
were. Hmm.
Yeah. So that was a lot of fun, man. We saw Dementia 13. Baron does like it's a whole night, man. It's like there's a
Hmm.
Q and he talks about the movie. There's interaction with the people who watched it. Like, there's discussions, and then there's like a scream contest. It's like really, really fun, man. It was a fucking awesome night, and nice little turnout. And
Hmm.
it's at that the sideshow, that bar. They have that
Yeah,
show
yeah, the
show
Coney Island
space in the
Sideshow.
back.
Hmm.
Yeah, so 30 people fills that place up pretty good.
Yeah, it's one of those things I've been meaning to go to. I know it is a monthly event, isn't it?
Yeah, every month, every month. We're gonna be going every month, definitely.
Awesome, awesome. So yeah, perhaps we will see each other at the March event.
Very, very fun night. Baron's a cool guy. I got a chance to talk to him, and we've
Mhm.
been going back and forth on Facebook Messenger and all that sort of stuff. Really cool guy.
Yeah, yeah, man. Glad I was able to introduce you fine fellas. It's funny, many moons ago when I was about 16, I was in a band with our mutual friend John Lamacchia, of course,
Yep.
of Candiria fame. We had this hardcore band, high school first band kind of thing called Close Call. And our first show was opening for one of Baron's old bands at Lemoore. He was in the death metal band Desecrator. And Blood Feast was also on the
Oh wow.
show, and American Eagle, and then this local hardcore band, Mr. Pickle, was on. It was like this 10 band extravaganza.
Oh, I know. I'm familiar with those.
Yes, and one of the other bands on it was a band called Hellraiser, which had Johnny Kelly and Kenny
Oh
Hickey of
wow.
Typo Negative. So there you go, little lore there,
Nice.
um, little Brooklyn hardcore lore, metal hardcore lore. So yeah, man, he's a guy that it's funny. I always would see him around going way back then, and then I think I actually met him at some point in like the mid '90s. And yeah, man, he's kind of just like a fixture, at shows over the years, and also at like goth clubs too that I was going to in the '90s as well. He was always there too. So yeah, man, long Brooklyn history.
He's an excellent host, by the way. He's
Hmm.
very engaging when he talks to the crowd. He knows his shit about horror,
Yeah.
and just like, awesome night. We had a great night on that night, and it was a lot of fun. Next installment is going to be Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So, hey, if any of you listeners are in Brooklyn or Queens or Jersey or whatever,
Mhm.
you got stay tuned. Follow uh, Cemetery Cinema on
Mhm.
Instagram, and
Yeah.
you'll find out about when these things are happening. It's a fun night, man. And if you like, especially old black and white stuff, definitely come on out.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna go. I have no reason not to fucking go. So, um, This weekend, Stella and I are going to be at something called the Long Island Convention of Horror, out in Hauppauge, Long Island. It's going Friday the 28th and then Monday, March 1st and 2nd. It's a 3-day event. It looks like it's going to be pretty cool. Stella's going to be vending there, of course, selling her Medusa goth gear, and I will be assisting. Yeah, a little bit about the con. It is a convention with a myriad of horror-related content with a focus on writers, editors, indie filmmakers, and comic books at the Hyatt Regency, Long Island, located in Hauppauge, New York. You could just Google Long Island Convention of Horror. Um, Interesting thing, there's going to be a showing of this movie that I've heard about there, um, called Black Eyed Susan. Have you heard
Oh
about this
yeah,
movie?
I heard of it, but I don't really know that much about it though. But I've heard of it.
Yeah, the director and a bunch of the cast, I believe, are going to be there. And I watched the trailer, and oh boy, it looks right up the Necromaniac's alley.
Nice.
It screened, I believe, for the first time at Fantasia in Canada last year, and it looks real dark and creepy. It's about a living sex doll that I guess probably comes to life and brings all sorts of misery. But I think that just kind of scratches the iceberg about what this movie's about. But there's trailers up on YouTube for it, and there's even some people who've seen it and gave their reviews of it on YouTube, and it just sounds really creepy. So I want to check it out.
Yeah, look, I've been like I said, I've heard of it. I didn't know a whole lot about it though, but that sounds cool.
Yeah, the director, Scooter McCrae, is going to be there. But yeah, this is cool. I mean, this might be the first time I've heard about like a 3-day horror event in Long Island. So hopefully it goes well. Um, someone else that's going to be there is interesting. Is the woman Maitland McDonough, who many years ago wrote a book about Dario Argento called Broken Mirrors, Broken Minds. And this is literally one of the first books about Dario that came out, I think around 2000, 2001. So I'm going to bring my copy of it and hopefully get it signed by her. So that should be cool.
It's awesome.
Yes. I actually clipped that title for a song that I wrote called Broken Mirrors, Broken Minds that has yet to be unleashed upon the world. So I always thought that was a great title.
Yeah, it is a cool title.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that should be fun.
Are you a White Lotus fan? You've been checking that out?
Oh yes, it's funny you brought it up because I was going to bring it up. I loved season one. I love season two. This season three so far is not disappointing, and I love the line that connects, so to speak, Mike, that connects the three seasons. Don't you?
Oh,
How there's
Greg
that?
and
Yeah.
the
Hmm.
masseuse. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. But it is still, I think, a show that if you wanted to just pick up and start on season three, I believe you could. Do you think so?
Yes, but it's
Hmm.
definitely better if you've seen all three if you've seen the previous two seasons, because then
Yeah.
you miss out on like those little connective tissue, you know?
Right. Right. You missed out on, I mean, the one in particular story in this one, like you said,
Yeah.
involving the masseuse. You know, but I do like that for, by and large, that they're fairly self-contained seasons. But honestly, look, it's not horror, folks, but it is dark. Would you say? Is it? Would you agree
I
that
think
it's dark?
very dark. And yeah, it's hard. I would say it's horror adjacent. You know what I mean? It's not
Yeah. Oh
it,
yeah.
it's
100%.
intense and there's like, things happen to people and it's like, I would if you like horror, you definitely would appreciate it. You know what I mean? And it has a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek humor. And
Yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah,
I mean, uh, honestly, I feel like season one was just so great, and it was just like a great way to kind of kick off the whole thing. Um, but I liked season two a lot, and so far these first two episodes are so great. It's like we're living in such a spoiled world that I'm like, oh fuck, I have to wait 7 days. Like, like you
Yeah.
forget that it's not just gonna pop right up after the episode is over, the next one.
I kind of dig that though, honestly. I appreciate I kind of like how Max does that. That you
Mm,
got to do it weekly. It's like old school, you know. It's like he gives you something to look forward to and
yeah,
talk
yeah,
about during the week and and then there's like all these like shows around that go weekly. I like that. I like that they do that at HBO.
definitely. And HBO has two other big guns for the year that I'm looking forward to, which is the next season of The Last of Us and what appears to be the final and next season of Euphoria, which I'm still not sure. Did you ever fuck with that yet?
No, I tried watching it. It just isn't for me,
Ah,
dude. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not for everybody. I liked it a lot though, but it's definitely not for everybody.
There's also Righteous Gemstones is coming up, the final
Yes,
season of
on the
that
comedy
too.
side.
Yeah, the
On the
comedy
comedy side.
side. So I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, I don't know. I've been watching Severance, on
Mhm.
Apple Plus, which I'm a little bit behind on that, but that always delivers. I think that's great. It's like a
Yeah.
very, very cool offbeat horror. I would say weird fiction horror story. Definitely.
Mm. I wish I had Apple again. I currently don't have
Yeah.
it. When I had it, I was loving that morning show, which is I thought was really fucking cool. I guess at some point I'll have to jump back on the horse. Maybe when I'm gainfully employed again, I will partake in a 26th streaming service. But I have Paramount, I have Max, I have Netflix, I have Amazon Prime, I have Shudder.
Yeah.
Oh,
On
it's
the
the
just want to give a shout out to the Robert E. Howard Foundation. It's as you guys know, I'm a huge fan of Robert E. Howard, and
Mhm.
I just picked up like two collections. One of them is a Westerns collection, okay, but it
Mm.
also, I like a good Western, but he has a whole series of stories that are weird Westerns, which
Oh
I
wow.
think is fantastic. They're like that's like my very, very favorite subgenre, like the weird Western, the Western horror. It's like
Mm.
kind of a neglected subgenre, if you ask me.
Definitely. I mean, it brings to mind the horror western with from a few years back. What's that one called? That had that really great gutting scene with the
Oh, it's Bone Tomahawk.
bone tomahawk.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's a
picture of the
great
bone
one.
tomahawk.
Comic
Yes,
book wise, there's Jonah Hex, which was always great. The movie wasn't so great, but the comic was pretty cool.
yes. No, he's a great character. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a overlooked subgenre. And Robert E. Howard did a great job. He's a great writer, great pulp fiction writer. And yeah, this Western collection has all of his weird Westerns in there. So that's really
Mm.
cool. And I also got his sci-fi stuff. There's a collection of his science fiction stories. And if you're interested, there was a novella called Almeric, which is included in this science fiction volume, which just came out, and that's been out of print for a very long time. And if it's one of those kind of sword and planet stories,
Mm.
like John Carter or something like that, where there's a dude from the modern world who gets transported to some far off planet, and he's like becomes like this warlord over there. There's magic and all that kind of stuff, weird technology. It's not my favorite subgenre within that world, but there's some good stories.
Now, Robert E. Howard died at the very young age of 30,
Killed himself. Yeah.
and he must have been writing from obviously teenage years, but the volume of
Yeah.
stuff he put out, I'd say in maybe a 10 plus year time range is pretty immense, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, he lived in Cross Plains, Texas, which is like it's nothing. There's nothing there. It's just a nowhere place. Lived with
Mm,
his mom for most of his life. And he was a professional pulp fiction writer. So
mm.
that was his job, man. He fucking banged it out every day. and wrote some of the most groundbreaking dark fantasy stories ever. You know, Conan, King Kull, Solomon Kane, you know, great characters. You know, he had a lot of great horror stories that were more kind of in that cosmic horror, like Lovecraftian sort of world.
Mm,
Um, he was pen pals with H.P. Lovecraft and Clark Ashton
that's right.
Smith.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Two very interesting people.
oh yeah, wow, oh yeah, and so yeah, I mean, I've always been a huge fan of his, and you know, the horror world. That's the thing about sword and sorcery. It's fantasy with a heavy duty dose of horror. You
Mm,
know, like all those characters are, you know, there's demons and magic and you know darkness, and the characters themselves are dark. You know, like you know,
mm.
Kane is like that. The Carl Oliver Wagner character is very much in the same cut from the same cloth as like Conan and Solomon Kane and like all those characters.
Yeah. I mean, again, I just so impressed with what he put out in such a very short period of time, in the time period in which he lived too. It's like you think about him and H.P. Lovecraft, about how ahead of their time they really were, huh?
Definitely, you know, and you know, back then, those like pulp magazines, there's a ton of them. There's like, you know, aside from Weird Tales, you know, there's a bunch of other magazines that printed this type of material, that published this kind of material. And, you know, they had
Mm,
boxing stories and westerns and, you know, horror, you know, all that kind of stuff. And that was popular. People read that stuff. People read back then, you know, they were
right.
interested in reading these fanciful stories.
Well, it's just kind of all dawning on me about the whole reading thing is that this is pre-television, listeners. There is no television to be distracted by. So reading is fucking king to a young man, a young woman, or anyone with an imagination, huh?
That's right. Yeah. And you know, it's you know, it's an interesting time. Like I like the weird tailed stuff is like some of my favorite stuff. You know, like for Valentine's Day, I got Tina bought me the reprint of the first issue of Weird Tales.
Oh, that's so sick. That's great.
It's a great gift. It really is. And I was really excited about that.
I mean, 1936. I mean, even well, there's the radio, but I don't even think. I mean, not everyone has the radio in 1936. I don't
Yeah, for
think. I
like
mean, like,
5 cents, for 5 cents, you could buy a Weird Tales. You
yeah,
get a
and
Lovecraft story, Robert E. Howard, Clark Ashton Smith. You know, you get like these incredible authors writing like 10-page stories, you know, and you got that's the whole afternoon, you know.
that is why people were definitely a bit smarter, I think, Mike, back in the day, because of all the reading they did.
I
Mm,
agree. I agree.
yes, yes.
So what have you been checking out, man?
Um, well, aside from, the White Lotus and whatnot, I've actually been just a lot of music listening. I've been listening to a lot of Manila Road, the
Oh yeah,
classic
man.
Kansas City heavy metal band. And by doing Road deep dives, I found a band that has just fucking blown me away. This very obscure 1982 metal band from Chicago called Winterhawk. Have you ever heard
Huh.
of this?
No, no, but I mean, I'm all about Manila Road, man. Crystal Logic, you know, that
Mhm.
great record. And they kind of have like that sword and sorcery vibe to their songs too.
Yes. And okay, the reason how I even really came across Winterhawk is because the cover of the album Revival is very fantasy. And I was like, oh, I gotta see what this sounds like. And I put it on, and it is like this guitar god level guitar playing, amazing bass playing, and these really sick vocals from this very obscure band that was barely around in the late 70s, early 80s, but managed to self-finance an album, and then they kind of disappeared off the face of the earth. But, time and history sometimes finds good music when it finds good music. And a bunch of years back, High Roller reissued this album, Revival. And of course, I was able to get a copy of the Revival album on vinyl because High Roller reissued it. They have all the Manila Road stuff. They've reissued Possessed and Destruction and countless records, and they do like a nice packaging. But man, like this band sounds like old Rush and like old Priest and old Maiden in like a blender.
Wow.
Like I don't know. There's just something about there's four songs in particular on this record that were just like, what the fuck? Like if this band came out now, they would be one of the biggest fucking bands in the scene right now. Like, you know, but alas, they were around for a brief moment in time in the late 70s and early 80s and played, you know, small shows and whatnot. And now, like in my deep dives, I saw that they actually managed to play all over Europe on the strength of this album getting reissued, and younger people found them. But yeah, Winterhawk from Chicago. The album is called Revival. Just put that shit on and press play, and you tell me, listeners, if you think it's an interesting record. I was blown the fuck away. There is another Winterhawk from California who's like an all Native American rock metal band. It is not them.
Oh
This is
shit.
the
Okay.
yeah, this is the Chicago Winterhawk that has an album called Revival,
See, but
and
I
it got
just looked them
reissued.
up on I looked it
Mhm.
up on Apple, right?
Yeah, it's on
So may,
Apple.
but
Mhm.
it's the all the bands, the other bands material, I think looks like it's mixed together with theirs. If you look up
Okay,
Winterhawk
the one album is called Revival.
Revival.
That's the one you want to
Okay.
check out. Yep, it's
All
got
right.
like the
Yeah.
fantasy winged guy cover,
Yeah. All
blue.
right.
Yep.
Because there's like five albums listed here, but
Mhm.
Revival is the Chicago one, right? Okay.
Yeah,
All
correct.
right, cool. The others are like the California guys, I
I believe
guess,
it's the
right?
California one. Yeah, yeah, they're from San Francisco. Um, Dude, I don't know. Sometimes I just find weird shit and I get fixated on it. And I just like, I literally played this album 30 times in 2 weeks. Like, I can't stop listening to this record. Um, Again, you know, the guitar player is a guy named Jordan McCarris who wrote all this music. Like, wait till you hear this guitar playing and the bass playing to me, I thought was amazing. And this singer who's on the record who apparently had a falling out with him after the record came out. And it's just like a weird story. Like you can actually find kind of the backstory on the band too out there in your internet searches. But yeah, that's what I've been listening to, like weird old heavy metal.
I will check that out because that's the kind of music I like too, man,
Yeah,
for
there you
sure.
go. Yeah, yeah. What about you, man?
Just doing this kind of stuff. Just like dealing with some family related shit that you guys know
Or
about. And
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
just trying to like get back into the swing of things, man, back into the grind, you know.
Hmm.
I finally,
No, man.
I think I tell you I threw my back out, but my back's pretty much healed. And yeah, I started going to the gym again, and that was hard. That was a real pain in the ass. But you got to get back into things.
Yeah, I've blown my back out twice in my life, and the first time was really bad, but the second time like incapacitated me for like weeks. So I know what that's like. Yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah, but yeah, just living life, man, getting things rolling again.
Yeah, exactly, man. Good for you, bro. But
So
I
let's
believe you
shout
have
out the
yeah.
boys, man. Let's shout
Hmm.
out the boys. So we got kicking things off every other Monday. I also got some intel from Brandon that he's going to be adding another day, so he'll be giving us weekly episodes now. A little
Oh,
bit
extra
different though.
content.
A
Okay,
little
okay.
different. Not they're not all going to be the same as his twice monthly, but
Hmm.
I got a little preview of what he's got in store for us. So yeah, as I was saying, Monday kicks everything off. We got Brandon Legion's Horror Wolf 666. And yeah, horror podcast. He is doing more interviews where we cover movies, so it's a little bit of a difference there.
Yeah. Tuesday, the greatest metal podcast in the land, Into the Necrosphere with Jackie Smith. I'm caught up from last week's episode. I did not listen to this week's episode yet, but I will bang that out, of course. Your latest Death Black Thrash news as well, which I love the news rant, Mike, don't you?
Oh yeah, yeah. The and Abduction's awesome. That's the dude from the AV from Abduction is on this week's
Mhm.
episode. And that's a killer
Yes.
band. They're really good.
Yeah, I've not heard them yet, so I'll check them out.
Yeah, it's a great
But
name too for a band.
it is a cool name. Yeah.
Yeah,
All right, yeah, there's your Tuesday. Into the Necrosphere. Make sure you subscribe. On Wednesday, uh, it's Mike Hill's own Everything Went Black podcast, right, Mike?
that's right. And we also have Iblis Manifestations on Wednesdays too, brought to you by
Hmm.
Cheyenne of the great Trivax, uh, working on a new record from what I hear. So
That's
yeah,
right. Yeah, I believe it's coming out this year on Osmos.
yep.
Uh, Make sure you follow them.
Thursday is Necro Thursday, where Mike, myself, and Jeff Kashid bring you Necromaniacs, the horror podcast. And we talk about movies, a little bit different.
Mhm.
And we also talk about horror adjacent films too, just to be clear about that.
That is true. Yes. Movies
Third,
we feel fit into the Necromaniacs wheelhouse that I feel like a long-time listener would get, but a new listener might not get. But if you're a new listener and you're hearing this, well, that is why we cover some films one may not think are horror films.
or
Yeah,
if it has Donald Sutherland in it, that's like one of the
exactly.
criteria we have.
Yes.
Thursday is also day one of Soul Knocks. They brought to you by Carl Hikera. He gives us 2 episodes every week. That's quite a workload, if you ask me.
That is a lot. That's a lot, but that is what we do here. We give you a lot of content as horsemen of the podcasting apocalypse. On Friday, kids, it is Spitball Media. Make sure you are subscribed to that wonderful podcast featuring my brother John Draper, as well as B Show Bryan and Shaheen. It is very fun, funny podcast about everything going on in the entertainment world right now. But on Saturday, why you get a break? Go out, enjoy the late winter weather. It's probably going to snow again, but spring is a coming. On Sunday, Mike, tell them what they got.
Sinister Minister returns with day two of Soul Knocks. And Carl and I are full speed ahead in our collaboration called Darkness Weaves, where we cover the work of Carl Edward Wagner. And each month we switch which podcast does the episode. And
Mhm.
right now we just started the second novel in the Kane saga, and that's known as the Dark Crusade.
Excellent. And there you have it, folks. The Horsemen of the Podcasting Apocalypse. Tons of content, tons of great podcasts that you should be subscribed to. Um, I believe we have some calls this
We
week.
do got a couple calls. So if you want to reach us at the Necrophone, you got 908-913-0782, 908-913-0782. And first up is the return,
Mm,
Mike from Pennsylvania.
Hey, fellas. It's Mike from Telford. I just got done listening to the new episode. Glad to have you guys back. Missed you for that couple weeks. I know the circumstances, and I'm truly sorry about that whole deal. Fucking life goes on, and sometimes it ain't too fucking easy. You guys have mentioned Savage Master a couple times, and actually, if you want to follow a guy that really knows his 70s shit and horror shit in general, their main dude, Adam Neal, his Instagram is pretty awesome. He was in a band called the Hookers. Also, they still play sometimes. They were an awesome live band. And Donald Sutherland, I haven't actually seen Clue. I need to get my shit together with that. But his first movie is called Crypt of Horror or Castle of the Living Dead. It's a Christopher Lee movie. And Donald Sutherland has like a dual role in that. It's not a great movie, but it's a 60s Italian movie. It's worth fucking seeing. It's gothic, and it's got some real cool shit in it. Some of those things are a little clunky, but that one's worth checking out if you haven't seen it. All right, fellas. I look forward to next week. Have a good weekend, man. I'll be talking to you later.
Now it's interesting that Mike brought up Savage Master because I feel like that we've talked about them and that falls within the wheelhouse of the bands that you were discussing earlier.
yeah, they're a great heavy metal band, and Of course, it's funny he mentioned that guy in the band about his
Adam.
Instagram, and I checked it out. Adam, yeah, and I started following Adam, and I believe he followed me back. So hello, Adam, if you're listening. Savage Master is great. Hopefully they come to Brooklyn again soon. They're doing a European run with Sanhedrin, Mike.
Oh, our friends.
Yeah,
Awesome,
that's right.
man.
Yes, yes. Yeah, too bad that's not a US run, but perhaps, maybe it could be. Um, but another interesting thing, longtime listeners, this could be a first. This our Clute viewing and review, it being a 70s movie that Mike has not seen, is a first, I think, on the show that we covered
Dude,
something that he was unfamiliar with. How
I
about
was
that?
blown away by that because that Mike is like has seen so much stuff and so much obscure material that I
Hmm.
was really surprised that he'd never seen that before. So Mike, definitely let us know what you think of Clute, man. I'm
Yeah.
interested to hear what your take is on that.
So yes, longtime listeners, take a drink because we actually did a movie that Mike has not seen, and it was from the 70s decade. How about that?
Yeah.
Take a shot or a drink. It's rare. I like it though. Um, so yeah, that was a fun one to do, Clute. Uh, you know, I think there was one or two other people on the Instagram that also had said they had never seen it, but were going to watch it as a result of the episode. So that's a good thing as well.
Up next, Ed from Michigan.
Hey, this is Ed from Michigan, and I just listened to the Nosferatu podcast and had a chance to get back and listen to and watch uh, The Northman. Um, I'm not sure that it surpasses Valhalla Rising, but it's a really good.
Ed, thanks for calling in. And regarding Valhalla Rising and the Northman, it's a
Mm.
toss-up, man. But I gotta say, I think I like the Northman just a little bit more.
Me too. I want to watch Valhalla Rising again. I did like it. I feel like it's kind of left the memory banks a little bit. I like the music a lot from that. I remember it had cool music. As did the Northman too, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like we need to see more of these types of movies out there in Hollywood, I mean, I know at some point this year we're getting a He-Man movie, Mike. Are you aware of that?
I wasn't aware of that.
Yes, we're getting a live action He-Man movie. Um, but I heard like it's weird. I've heard some things that yes, it's a sword and sorcery movie, but then I saw some stills that were clearly not sword and sorcery. So I'm a little concerned about it. Uh, it is not animated. It is a live action film, and I guess it's a wait and see.
Yeah, I'm dubious about all this. You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
you can go really bad with that idea, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I want to talk a little bit about the cast because it is a good cast, actually. Um, Hold on, I'm just gonna pull up real fast here. Morena Baccarin is in it as the sorceress. Idris Elba is in it.
Oh, cool.
James Purfoy. Uh, who else is in? Oh, Alison Brie is in it. Um, let's see. Jared Leto is Skeletor.
Ah, that's funny.
Yeah, Camila Mendes is Tila. Yeah, Morena Baccarin is playing the sorceress, which is awesome, and Alison Brie is playing Evil Lynn. So there's some reasons to be very happy for me personally. I like all these actresses. Um, James Purfoy is King Randor. I don't know, but I heard that it is a different take, quote unquote, on the He-Man lore. That could be very scary. That could be great. I don't know. I guess it's a wait and see, right?
I mean, I like Idris Elba. I think he's a cool actor. Of course, he was Stringer Bell
Mm-hmm.
from back in the day. one of my
Yeah.
favorite shows. And it'd be interesting to see him in this. But I gotta be honest, dude. When it comes to this type of movie, you got to play it the way I want it to be played. Otherwise, I'm not down.
Mm,
It's like it sword and sorcery has to be dark and scary, man. You can't, you know what I'm trying to say, man? Like,
I
you
know
know,
it can't be like a goof fest. I mean,
no, no.
look, if it's like, okay, remember the Dolph Lundgren movie? We're gonna do that, but we're gonna do it now with better effects and better this and more money and more blah 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 blah. Like, okay, that's cool. But if it's gonna be like some kind of jump between the modern world and the old world, or whatever the fantasy world, which is what I believe this is going to be, I don't know about that. I don't know.
There,
We'll
there are
see.
just so many other ideas to go. There's so many better things you can do with that genre than make a He-Man movie. I know that might be blasphemy to some of you guys, but like for me personally, I'd rather see another Conan movie, or I'd rather see like a King Cole movie or something, or a Kane
Right.
movie, you know.
Mm. Because one of the screenshots from a scene that I saw clearly was modern day. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's not He-Man. What is that?
Yeah. Ah.
So we'll see. It comes out 2026, actually, folks. I stand corrected. But yeah, there you have it.
So that brings us to this week's feature film,
Mhm,
Heretic, from last year, released September 8th, 2024 at TIFF, and
mhm,
November 8th, 2024 in the US. It's 111 minutes long, written and directed by Scott Beck and Bryan Woods, who brought us A Quiet Place. So
mhm.
did you like A Quiet Place?
I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, I liked it.
It was all right.
Um, yeah, I'm not, I didn't love it. I liked it. I definitely liked it.
The
Um,
cast includes a first. Hugh Grant. This is the first horror film Hugh Grant's been in, I believe.
I believe so. Like first. Yeah.
Yeah. So Hugh Grant, seasoned actor, stars in this as Mr. Reed. We've got Sophie Bathsheba Thatcher as Sister Barnes, and you know her from Yellow Jackets and
Hmm.
Companion, which just came out this year or last year, I
Mhm.
think, right? Chloe East as Sister Paxton. We got Topher Grace as Elderly Kennedy, or Elder Kennedy, rather.
Elder
Sorry.
Kenny.
Yeah.
It's funny. I'm like, wait a minute, why does that guy look familiar? And that's because it's Topher Grace. Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
Elle Young as the prophet. So it's a
Mhm.
small cast, but which I like about it. I that's the definitely one of the things I like about this movie is like the small claustrophobic vibe of the film.
Yes, if a cast is like five people, six people, no problem for me at all. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, if it's four people, like this movie, literally, practically four people, technically three, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the most of the film is literally just the three of them interacting. Heavy dialogue, which I thought was awesome. Um,
Mhm.
really good acting between the three, between East, Thatcher, and Grant. I think very
Yes.
good, very, very solid acting.
Mhm.
Each character had their own distinct voice, you know what I mean? And they were all complicated in their own ways.
Yeah. Had a budget of 10 million, made 57 and change. It did pretty well at the box office, actually. That's quite good. To
Yeah.
make almost 60 mil on a budget of 10. I mean, let's be honest. Lots of horror movies made lots of money last year, and this was one of them. And you add Hugh Grant into the mix, and I think that's why it was successful.
Oh, were you into Yellow Jackets at all?
Okay, I watched season one and I loved it. And I watched some of season two, and I somehow or for whatever reason had punched out, and I have not jumped back. I'm thinking about just starting with episode one of season two very soon because I would like to get back into it. What about you?
Fucking hate Yellow Jackets.
Ah, season one was so solid though. No, I thought it
Oh,
was.
once again, this is similar to Sword and Sorcery for me. All right.
Hmm. Okay.
This is folk horror.
Yes.
You got to get it right for me to really get down with it. You know what I mean? You got to
Hmm.
have like some sort of like, it just doesn't, it didn't work for me.
Hmm.
I don't, it's not enough to just have some woods and a couple of, symbols and, things like that. you know.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's other things going on. I mean, and we got some good actresses in there, good cast. Um, I like the shell of the story, like the act, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
these young female athletes were stuck on an island and resorted to cannibalism and crazy shit like that. The overall story is good, and I know it goes into like seven places, but yeah, I guess you're right. Maybe if I watched more, I would think a little more about how you feel about it. But I didn't like. I don't know. I enjoyed season one.
I mean, I'm a mark for this kind of stuff, dude. Like, I want to
Mhm.
like it. Like, that's the worst part about it. It's like yeah, I saw the trailer for it. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna get into this. I know this is probably something I'm gonna be into, and it just did not grab me, man. And like, I actively dislike it now.
Hmm. Interesting. It's funny. I've never there. I know there are a couple of A Quiet Place follow-ups. I've not seen any of those. Have you?
I did see I saw the second one
Hmm.
with Cillian Murphy, and then I
Hmm.
saw the other one that just came out with the I forgot what it's called, but we rented it one night, and
Okay. Yeah.
it's like, are they bad movies? No, but they're just once again, I want to like them. You know, what I mean, it's like I like the cast generally. I like the whole idea behind it, but it just they're not great,
Mm.
but they're decent. If you want to, especially if it's streaming somewhere like for free, and it's like,
Mm.
you got nothing to do and put it on, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
you know,
Um.
do it. What
Yeah.
do you want from me? Just watch it.
Put it on. Put it on. What was I going to say? It's funny. I'd actually thought this had come out at some point in December, but yeah, it came out November 8th in America.
Yeah,
Um, right off the gate, I will say, I had planned to see this in the theater because I actually really wanted to see it with our
yeah,
best of 2024 in mind. And I think
yep.
I remember all of us were kind of scrambling to try to squeeze it in, huh?
Yeah, I did watch this last year, and it did not crack my top for last year.
Mm.
But that doesn't, we'll get into it though. It's
Yes, we will. Yeah.
you know, yeah, so we got two young missionaries, Paxton and Barnes,
Mhm.
and they're part of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Mormons. Yep.
Yeah, so they're Mormons. Yeah, which if I don't know if you guys know much about the Mormons, they got some very strange beliefs about you know, religion and all that sort of stuff.
Yes.
So
uh,
in there, they're trying to do their missionary work, and they come across Mr. Reed, who of
mhm.
course is Hugh Grant. They knock on his door, and he invites them in, which is weird, I think.
Now, the thing is, a little bit of a backtrack. He knew they were coming, and they knew they were going to him in particular. They were kind of like on the streets a bit, talking to different people, and they went to some homes here and there. But uh, they did well. He did contact the Mormons about a home visit, from what I recall in the plot.
Right.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is like there's this ruse that he has a wife. And
Mhm.
that's what, you think about it. Two young girls, a stranger, a guy, his
Mhm.
house, entering this guy's house. Oh, I have a wife. That makes it
Mhm.
okay, right? It makes it
Yeah,
doesn't
because
there's not nothing
Mormon
threatening about
women
that.
Mormon women apparently are not allowed to be alone with a strange man. Apparently, that's what they said.
Yeah.
Um,
So,
yeah,
there's just, oh, my wife's not feeling well. She's making blueberry pie. She's in the kitchen. There's always a reason why his wife will not present herself to the two young ladies.
yeah. I like the part where he asks them, "Oh, what kind of pie do you think I'm making?" And they're like, "Blueberry." And like, yeah, we can smell it and blah blah blah. And we learn why uh, they can smell blueberry pie because that is the candle that is in the room. I thought that was a great reveal. What about you?
Definitely a good reveal.
Mhm.
But the whole point, and this is what I thought was interesting, like was his engagement with them over
Mhm.
religion.
Yeah.
And that takes up a pretty sizable amount of the film is this debate that they're having, which I found very, very interesting.
Yeah. They think they're there to talk to him about Mormonism and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, blah, blah, blah. And I would think that they would be under the assumption that he was someone who didn't know much about their religion, but it turned out he knew uh, quite a bit about their religion as well as, well, all of the religions, Christianity, Judaism, the Muslim religion, etc. Like he reveals all of his kind of knowledge to them, and they're kind of impressed. But they're impressed, but they're also afraid because they realize that not only is the candle from the blueberry smell from a candle, it's that there is no phone signal in the house, and that they are locked in the house because the front door does not open either. Things just kind of unravel, huh?
Yeah, yeah. And I think Hugh Grant does a great job as playing the threatening, clearly deranged person, you know?
Mm. Oh yeah, he does actually. Because he's very well spoken. Of course, if you've seen him in any movie or heard him speak, he has the what I would call the posh British accent.
Right.
He doesn't have like the Johnny Lydon kind of He's not saying "oi" every 3 seconds British accent. He's got like the slick kind of sophisticatedness to his voice. And when he speaks, even when he's speaking kind of sinisterly, you kind of listen. You know, Mike?
I agree with that. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So he does make a claim that he has found the one true religion.
Mm,
So that's like the takeaway from this whole thing. I was actually really, when we were watching this, I was like, wow, this is really cool. Like this movie is really, really interesting. And I like that he knew all these details about all the religions and,
yeah.
Christianity and all that kind of stuff. And that really drew me in.
Oh, totally. Basically, he gets them into another room in the house. The house is kind of sinister and kind of creepy in itself. Obviously, once they realize that they cannot get out, there is no wife, yada yada yada. But there are two doors located within the other room. Um, and he kind of gives them a choice of which door to go through, right? Belief or disbelief. He writes on the
Yeah.
doors in the chalk. But while he's doing all this, he's kind of giving his spiel about life and religion and God, right?
So it turns out it didn't matter which door you chose because they both lead to his basement dungeon.
The dungeon, yes,
Yeah.
an even darker, even creepier, of course, part of the home, which is a sketchy dungeon with a table and chairs and you know, yeah, just kind of what you would expect him to have down there, right?
Yeah, and then of course they find what will be known as the prophet, um,
Mm.
which is a woman. She's been down. Looks like she's been down there for a really long time.
Yeah, she's really creepy, actually. Kind of like zombie-ish and kind of just, you don't really know what to make of her, if she's like a monster or just like an emaciated person. Um, so the blueberry pie makes an appearance along with the decrepit woman, and she eats the pie. While he has the two girls down there, of course, he's speaking to them through, I guess, like an intercom, right, or like a loudspeaker. And he tells the girls that the pie is poisoned with, what is it, wolf's bane and belladonna, and that the
Yeah.
girl is about to die, and that they are going to witness her resurrection. Um, the thing is, we're getting somewhat ahead because, I mean, do we want to talk a little bit about the two girls, how they're kind of different kind of girls,
Yeah,
right?
let's talk about that too. Yeah, we kind of glossed over that. We just kind of painted them as these generic missionaries.
Hmm.
But one is like I would say more um more of like a fundamentalist,
Hmm.
believes everything, is playing by the rules, and the other one has her doubts about this whole thing. and is possibly thinking about like, you know, being more secular in her lifestyle.
Yes, Sister Barnes, played by Sophie Thatcher. She's the one that's a little rougher around the edges. And Chloe East, who plays Sister Paxton. I guess we'll refer to them as Sister Barnes and Sister Paxton. Sister Barnes, I don't think it came in from being a Mormon as a lifer. Her mom kind of they got into it a little later in life. But the other one, Paxton, is I think from like the longer line of Mormonism, and maybe a little bit more of the we will say the goody two shoes of the two, perhaps, right?
Yeah, she plays by the rules, definitely.
Yes, yes. Um, but we learn a little more about Sister Barnes's character as we go along. Um, you know, I mean, I know the movie is new, but I think we're going to probably do this one with spoilers. Let's say
Uh, yeah, I mean, I don't want to get reveal the whole ending really, but
you
like,
don't. Okay, so
yeah,
all
because
right,
it's
so
like people might. I mean, you just watched it a couple days ago, so
I
it's
watched it
like,
last night. Yeah,
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 so
no,
it's
okay.
like I don't want to, I want people to watch, just get the gist of the film and then enjoy it
Mhm.
for themselves. You know what I mean?
Okay, so we're doing our second in a row of a non-spoiler episode, folks, which is we
Oh
don't
yeah,
get that a
that's right.
lot here on
Clute.
the
We
show.
didn't even though, yeah, we didn't spoil Clute, but
No, we did not.
we came
Mhm.
just short of it though.
We did.
Yeah.
We did. Um, so yeah, we've got the two poor girls down in the dungeon. They're witnessing this like, creature die in front of them from eating a poison pie and uh Hugh Grant is telling them they're about to witness a resurrection. Um well, he is not a liar because sure enough, uh there's a point where they try to kind of make a bit of an escape, right? Because the doorbell rings and it turns out I guess the Topher Grace character is trying to find the two girls. He's someone else from the church. He's kind of out there in the snow and shitty weather, and he manages to get to Hugh Grant's house because they know where they went because this was a planned visit. And he manages to convince Topher Grace, no, they weren't here and blah blah blah, right? And then he actually comes back, and we think he figures it out, and it turns out that nope, you know, he leaves them there again to die, pretty much, right?
Yeah, definitely. Because they were supposed to be back by like, by darkness, by the time when it was dark and they were out
Mhm.
there, and so it's still like a loose end as to where they actually were.
Yes. While Mr. Reed, Hugh Grant's character, is distracted, the girls try to get these matches from the floor, which they do manage to get some of them from this book by pulling a rug that was on the floor that was upstairs. And when they come back downstairs, they see that the she creature prophet girl has kind of moved. One of them notices that it's not in the exact same position it was in before, and then of course it does resurrect itself, right? By getting up off the table, and that was actually a really cool scene.
Okay, now if the movie up until this point,
Hmm.
I was all in on this movie.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought the religious discussion, the idea, the sort of nihilistic viewpoint that he has, like
Mhm.
the pessimism, the dismissal of regular religion, like the monotheistic religions of the world, and then the final, like the true religion, and he's like going to basically claim to be doing a miracle by resurrecting this prophet, right?
Mm.
All that stuff was good, in my opinion. I was down completely, and I was like, "Oh, this is
Mhm.
interesting. This is like getting into some like deep philosophical stuff." You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But it doesn't go there.
Not really.
No.
The prophet describes to the two girls what the afterlife is like, and then Sister Barnes rejects the prophet's description, noting that it is similar to the common hallucinations from a near-death experience.
Yeah.
Um, they've concocted a plan to attack Reed amidst all of this. And Barnes gives the signal to Paxton to attack Reed. Right at that very instance, we get one of the most shocking moments in the movie. He slashes Sister Barnes's throat and claims that she too will resurrect. That was a really downer moment,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And so now we're starting to understand that Reed is completely out of his mind. You know what I mean? Like he believes certain things. He's like not seeing reality through the correct lens.
Yeah. As she's just bleeding to death on the floor and well, pretty much seemingly dead, he digs into her arm with the same box cutter and pulls out this implant that he says proves that it's a microchip and that Barnes isn't real and that this whole world is a simulation and nothing is real, giving credence to Mike saying that he's just kind of a crazy person. Then Paxton recognizes what it is and says, "No, that's it's a contraceptive implant." You know what I'm saying? It's like, what are you talking about? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, do you not know what that is? Um, and this is when the Topher Grace's character makes his second, you know, uh, attempt to knock on the door. Um, and the thing is, yeah, things do kind of start to unravel a bit in the movie. I think after the girl gets her throat slashed, and things kind of start getting revealed about Reed not really kind of having it all together, I guess.
Yeah. And
Mm.
this also like the fact that the implant sort of reinforces our idea that Paxton got her own rule book, you know what I mean?
Yes. And Paxton is realizing all this and actually says to him that, you're improvising right now, right?
Yeah. Because he's like
She's
saying
trying to
something to
do
how
this.
she's like a simulation and this,
Mhm.
and it's like it's that I forgot what that there's like a mental condition where it's like this everything is like a mass delusion. It's like when one
Mm.
thing happens, they justify this other, it's like this delusional thinking. And that's basically what he's dealing. Every time there's like something happens, he has to reinforce it with some bizarre fantasy,
Mm.
like Paxton is a
Mhm.
simulation or she's not a real person or something like that.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, you know, basically like now, Paxton is kind of figuring out that like that girl didn't really resurrect either because of the fact that the body was placed differently. She thinks that it was another person entirely that
Right.
was replaced, and it turns out she was right because she finds this other kind of basement within the basement where the dead body is, and Reed locks her in there, and she starts to explore down there, finding all these rooms within rooms and kind of occult symbols, right? Until she finally reaches a final room where all these emaciated women in cages are. I found that to be kind of wild. I was just like, at this point, I'm like, where is this going? I kind of felt, didn't you?
Yeah, because there like I was saying earlier, when we got to the whole resurrection of the prophet, and it could have gone like into this like almost like a Legatian sort of direction with
Mm-hmm.
you know they're- like they're like or like martyrs or something, you know what I mean? Where there's like
Yeah, there was that
trying to
martyr
find out, like
storyline.
being
Mhm.
obsessed with what the afterlife actually is. But it turns out it's not really that at all. It's like this guy is just obsessed with control, essentially.
Yes, they keep talking about the one true religion and how Reed is going to reveal to her what the one true religion is. Once she gets in that room with all the other women, he reveals that control is the one true religion, and control is kind of what keeps everything moving in life and makes people do things. And um, I thought that was interesting. I mean, I guess I realized there wasn't going to be some whole big, grand religious statement, metaphysical statement. It was very much a concrete kind of, yeah, no kidding. It is about control kind of takeaway, right?
Yeah, I just the beginning part, like the first two acts of this film, I thought were very philosophical and had this like depth
Yeah,
to
yeah.
them. But then the ending, like the last third of the film, I thought just kind of like it lost me, you know? And yeah, so almost.
Hmm. Right, right. Um, After, that grand statement of that the desire to control others is the root of all religions, Paxton uses this letter opener that she's had, kind of like dagger-esque, to stab Reed in the in the neck, and she tries to escape. Um, he manages to catch up with her and stab her, and they're both kind of bleeding out in the basement. And just as he's about to finish her off, this is the big ending reveal that I guess we're not going to reveal, huh?
Yeah, I mean it's also very unbelievable too, the
Yeah,
ending.
something quite insane happens, um, which harkens back to something a bit earlier that happened in the movie with the prophet. And then the ending. Okay. Do you think do you think the ending was a bit more of a dream of Paxton's, or something that literally did happen? Now I can ask that question and not reveal what happened.
I,
I'm
I
just
didn't, I
asking
didn't
you.
consider it as I didn't consider that option.
Okay.
I assumed that it was like all happening in real time, like real. Like I didn't, but I didn't consider it as being a dream. And maybe, that makes it interesting, actually. It's an interesting way to look at it.
The reason why I thought it might have been a dream is because of what the fuck happened to her.
You know
And
what, dude?
mm,
You're onto something with that, I think.
yeah.
You,
Hmm.
I got to think about that more.
It might be a bit more of I mean, okay, it might be a bit more of a darker ending with that add-on at the end to kind of brighten up the ending, or you know what I'm saying, to kind of to actually almost give a nod to religion, actually,
All right.
to you know
So
what I'm saying?
yeah, let's do this then. All right, because I want to talk
Mm,
about this.
yeah.
Let's give our number rating.
Okay.
And then we'll do so. Anyone who wants to continue listening, please do so. But we're going to talk spoilers after this.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, let's do that because I want to discuss this a little bit. So, anyway, what do you give this movie, Mike?
I actually gave it like a 4.
Okay.
I enjoyed it, and probably mainly because of Hugh Grant. Um, and I liked, like I said, I liked the skeleton of the movie, and I liked the beginning a lot. Um, it was a pretty original, I think, overall plot, and a very
Yeah,
cool plot for a movie where you get these two people to come to your house to discuss religion, and they can't leave. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's a great opening. Isn't that a great pitch? That's a nice
it
pitch.
is.
Like,
It is. Yeah.
yeah. So that's why I actually gave it a 4. What about you?
I give it a 3.5. Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't like
Okay.
it as much as you. I really,
Mhm.
really love the first two-thirds of the film. I thought that was the setup was great. And I think that it just kind of cheesed out at the end for me. And it kind of lost me. But it's
Okay.
definitely worth checking out. Like I think, it's definitely a movie to watch and talk about. And, so
Mhm.
the ending too. Like let's hit that because I think you
Okay.
really made it
Spoiler
good.
alert. Yes.
So now we're going to go into the spoilers. You know what? Maybe this is the way we should do everything from now on, honestly.
Okay.
I kind of
Okay.
like that. I like that like we give someone an option to like peace out after we give the rating and then we
Mm.
continue. That's a good format, I think.
All right.
All right, you guys let us
Now,
know. Let us know, guys,
mhm.
because I know some of you have commented on not being able to watch the movies because we ruin it for you.
Right. Or literally waiting to
Yeah.
listen to the particular episode until you've seen the movie, because otherwise
Yeah.
you're fucked. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, okay. The reason why I think the last moments, or say post getting out the window, might have been a dream was because of, let's be honest, the wounding between the two of them almost says to me that her and Hugh Grant, died down there. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? From their
Yeah.
each other's respective wounds. They're both pretty fucked up. Okay. There's another school of thought that thinks that they both died down there, and the what's her name was also already dead because of what happened to her. Um, what do you call it? Uh, Barnes.
Yeah.
That that there is no happy ending at all, and that I mean all three of them are dead.
Yeah.
Her resurrection did not take place either, and that was also a figment of Paxton's imagination.
Yeah,
Almost that
definitely.
entire moment was a figment of Paxton's imagination. They're all
Yeah.
dead down there in that basement, and that's that. Um, the adding up, like the inclusion of the resurrection of Barnes, right,
Uh-huh.
to kill Hugh Grant gives a little credence to the non-resurrection of the prophet. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it gives the credence it gives is the faith of the two girls in God. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? Like, and
Because
it
like,
kind of it gives that wink at the end, like, okay, good won out here because of faith and belief. Like that's one possible thought of the movie. The others is a far more darker one that it's a figment of Paxton's imagination. Everybody's dead down there and yada yada. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's one is a really dark reality. The other is a little more is a bit more positive reality.
I did not consider the dark reality, and I like that ending.
Mm.
I thought a third thing was that um Barnes somehow survived getting her throat cut and came back, and that there was no resurrection. She just somehow survived
Yes,
to
yes.
knock
Mhm.
Reed over the head. But that's another reason why I was like, what the fuck, man? This motherfucker bled out, must have like
Yeah, she was
bled
dead
out
as a
like
doornail.
minutes
Right,
ago, hour,
right,
like a
right.
while ago. But like, so all right, I'm gonna throw that out. I
Mm.
like the dark version
Mm.
where, it's almost like the end of Brazil or something like that, like where there's like this bright ending, but the reality is the dude died like being tortured to death. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like the the ending that we visually see with Paxton and then the butterfly and this and that is very much possibly in her head.
I like that idea.
It's
I think
possibly in her head
you've turned
because
me on that one for sure.
yeah, it's possibly in her head, possibly. And I almost feel like it's open to interpretation. I would love to see what the directors said themselves, or if the directors said, no, it's blah blah blah. I like when the directors don't say, honestly, right? Like where it's kind of like very open ended. Like some directors will not say, Um, but yeah, you're kind of left with three possibilities here. You're left
I
with a
really
possible.
like that
Yeah.
the ending that you proposed. I think I'm going to
Mm,
go with that one.
okay. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. That by the time they get down there, all of them they have finished each other off, and the happy ending is basically all in Paxton's mind. That's a pretty damn good ending. Um, what you said about the fact that her friend was not really dead just yet and was able to do that for her so that she could live. Okay, that could have happened too. But I don't think anybody's surviving what took place. That's my point. Like I don't, like
Yeah.
everybody's dead. Yeah.
That's definitely unrealistic, and that's why I never considered that. Now, you know what? When it goes on to HBO on the Max, I'm gonna
Mm.
watch it again.
Yeah, next week. And
Yeah.
here's the other thing about the imagination ending thing. At early on in the movie, she does say she would like to be reincarnated as a butterfly. So that to me says that she's dead, possibly already. When the butterfly appears on her hand, that's not really happening, you know? Or that she
Oh,
dies,
definitely.
okay, either she never makes it out of that basement, or she dies right then and there. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I
So,
like that.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna watch this again, man, and I'm going to maybe my opinion will change slightly after watching it again with that in mind.
Yeah, the interesting thing is that Hugh Grant's character was a smart fraud, I guess we could say. Like not a fraud, like he was a fraud in that his whole plan kind of crumbled, but he had a multitude of women in there that he swapped out that woman with the prophet. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's what he did.
Yeah.
You know, he killed one of them and replaced them with a living girl in the house because he had a bevy of tortured fucking women in the house. Because in his mind, he was playing God because control, which he had control over all these poor women, you know, that's religion. Like, you know what I'm saying? Pretty fucked
Right.
up character. Yeah, pretty fucked up.
Yeah, I mean the character is interesting. It just there's a couple of things. Like I was saying, I was kind of hoping this was going to go more like in a martyr's direction or something. But I'm gonna rewatch it, man. And you know what? I'm gonna rewatch this, and we'll talk about as an aside, not to redo the
Okay,
whole
yeah, yeah,
movie,
yeah.
but I'll
Okay.
let you know. Maybe with this in mind, if I rewatch it
Mhm.
again, I might maybe it'll make me appreciate it a little bit more.
Yeah, no, I mean it's interesting, and I think maybe not everybody has this takeaway of like there's a couple of different outcomes here at this ending, you know. Um, but it's fun to think about, you know. Especially since I think that there was a little more here that I think the average viewer, the average kind of mainstream horror fan might not have picked up on, and you know, it's also fun to dissect a bit, right? Yeah.
That's good, man. Like now I guess you got food. I have food for thought now. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think this was presented as a mainstream horror, which it was. I mean, it played everywhere. It had a major actor in it. It did pretty damn good, you know. But I think it had a bit of that sinister indie darkness to it, a little hidden in there. That's what I think. No?
I yes, 100%. And I look forward to rewatching this though, because now I'm like all about fitting those pieces together.
Like they're hitting you in the head a bit with the religion thing, but at the same time, it's an enjoyable like horror fare that has some dark turns. You know, I think when they sliced our one of our poor heroes there's throat right there. I was not expecting that. You know, I was like, oh my god. You know,
Yeah.
um, that was I thought a great scene. Um, review wise, Rotten Tomatoes reader said Hugh Grant has infectious fun playing against type in Heretic, a religious horror that preaches the gospel of cerebral chills over cheap shocks. Uh, Peter Bradshaw for The Guardian described the film as gruesome and bizarre and preposterous, but Hugh Grant was suave, dapper, and evil. Let's see what the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints said about the movie, Mike. What do you think? A number of former Latter-day Saints praised the film
Oh.
for its realistic and nuanced portrayal of missionaries. But the actual church released a statement condemning the film's portrayal of violence against women, and they posted an article on missionary safety and intended to assist journalists and the public with questions and concerns regarding the safety and well-being of missionaries. So they were concerned about like this movie harming some of their own people, which is an interesting little take. No?
That is interesting taken. I'm like surprised that they weighed in on this. That's kind of cool.
No, it is cool. I mean, I can't remember the last time the Mormons were subject of a horror film. I don't know about you, or or any kind of movie like this. So, I mean, I guess if I was one of them, I would have something to say too. But they were concerned about the violence against women and concerned about missionary safety. Interesting.
A little more
Look, there are
to the
copycat weirdos out there, don't you think?
yeah. Oh yeah,
God
definitely. A little bit
forbid.
more going on here in this film.
Right? Yeah. I mean, you don't think there's a lunatic dude out there who would see two missionaries knock on his door and get up to some shenanigans. I mean, the numerical likelihood of it happening is probably low, but it could happen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, man, that's why I enjoyed the movie. I think there's more meat on the bone than people realize, and more to discuss that people, might not have thought about or might have missed. So that's kind of the cool thing about a movie that you enjoy.
Well, all right, man. That was a more interesting discussion than I initially thought we would have on this movie, to be honest.
Same, because before we hit the record button, you were just like, I was like, well, I like the movie. And you were like, this is going to be an interesting episode.
It was though. It's because like
Yeah.
there was things that I did not consider that you brought up, which making me intrigued again. It's good.
Another little thing was that when one of them asked about the house, he said, "My wife made the house or built the house." We got nothing on that, huh? Or
I
did
don't
we?
recall that part, but yeah, once again, I have to reinvestigate that for sure.
Yeah, I would have liked a bit more of his backstory, which we do not get, which is okay too. Um, but yeah, other than he's very smart, he knows about religions, and he's a misogynist, crazy guy. There's probably a little more there about how he landed where he landed here. Did he just have a wife at one point and a normal life? We don't know, right?
Exactly. And yeah, there's no backstory, no origin
No,
story for
no.
him. Yeah.
But yeah, so there's Heretic, kids. A little late, but we got to it.
Hell yeah. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. And I like this cover it and then we do the spoiler. I think that's a good way of
Yes,
doing it.
especially for the newer stuff, right?
Yeah.
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 All righty.
Well,
Thanks
thanks for
again,
listening,
listeners.
everyone. Take care now.
Bye bye.